So I'm going to show another use case example of using a stack, and that is for Postscript files. So a Postscript file is sort of an older version of a PDF file. So you actually have, you might have seen these things, they're .ps files. You can save Word documents as PS files, you can send them to your printer, and if you have a Postscript printer, it'll print them in very high resolution. And you use these to produce figures to be published in textbooks, for example. But all a Postscript file is it's a little program. It's a text file when you look inside, and the commands in the text file are written in the Postscript language. And it's very low level, and very much like assembly, but it's higher level than assembly in some ways, but very simple. And the way that it works is you just type a number and you hit enter, and that goes onto a stack. And the prompt changes to indicate that you've got one item on the stack, and I can add another item to the stack. And if I show that stack, I can see that 3 was put on and then 2 is sitting on top of it. And you build the stack up like that. I can push more numbers onto a stack, and if I show that stack, I can see that they've all been put in, and the last thing I pushed into the stack is at the top. Right? And then I can pull things off of the stack and display them. So I just popped off a 65 and showed it to you. I can pop off that 4 and show it the 3. Right? So that's a stack. So right now the top of my stack has a 3 and a 2, and I'm going to try to evaluate this same math expression that we did before in another video, which was 3 plus 2 in parentheses times the quantity 1 plus 7. All right? So what that ought to give me is a 40. It should be 5 times 8. So coming back to here, I've got 3 and 2 on the stack, so I want to add them together. And if I look at the stack now, I've got a 5 on the stack. And so then I put a 1 and a 7 on the stack. So I put the 1 on the stack and the 7 on the stack. And now we can see that those are sitting at the top. I add those two together, and now my stack has 2 items. It's got the 8 and the 5. So if I multiply those two together and I look at the stack, I can see that there's a 40 at the top of the stack, which I can then pop off and display, and that's the result of that expression. You can do that all in one line. 3 and 2 add, 1, 7 add, and multiply the result and then display it. So this is a more concise one line that does all of those things with the stack, and it calculates 3 plus 2 times 1 plus 7. Right. So that's nice. Postscript is actually used though for displaying graphics that would go to a page. So in any GoScript program, there is an associated image involved, and this image has a little coordinate system in it where the origin's down here at the bottom left, and it's 72 pixels per inch or units per inch. So if you go over 72 units and up 72 units, you'll be right about here in the image. So I can load a font like Times Roman. Let me find that font on the system somewhere, and it puts that font on the stack. It's sitting there at the top. You can't see it. It has no string representation. And I could make it really big by pushing a 24 onto the stack, which is how big I want it to be, and then using the scale font command, which will pop the 24 and the font off. It'll scale that font by 24 and push it back on. All right? So now I have a 24 point Times Roman font on the stack. I can set that to be the current display font. And so now if I draw any text, it'll be using Times Roman. Coming over here, I can move the current position from the lower left corner to be up somewhere else. So I'll move it up 1 inch. So I'm going to say 72 and 72. So those are the coordinates. I want to go in horizontally 72 and up 72. And I want to display the text hello. So if I look at the stack right now, it's got hello, 72, and 72. But actually, that was a mistake. I don't want hello there. Let me just look at the stack real quick. Yeah, so 72, 72, that's where I want to move to. And then I want to print hello. So I put hello on the stack. And then I say, so here's the image before, and here's the image after I say show. And it shows that string that was at the top of the stack on the page. So you can kind of do complicated things like that with Postscript. You can create something called a path. And you can do things like in that path you could say draw a circle. So starting at position 0 with a radius 100. Oh, not that. Let's say with a radius of 50, go from 0 to 360 degrees, draw an arc, and that gives you the geometry, and I needed to say either give it an outline or fill it. So in this case, I'll say give it an outline, and if I hit enter, oh, I must have got my coordinates wrong. Oh, it's back at the origin still. I should have translated. So it can be a little bit tricky, but if you're clever enough, you can draw really pretty figures with Postscript.